Hi, this is George Alger, and welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. Today's topic is vegetarianism and how it impacts adrenal exhaustion. And our guest expert today is Joanie Blaxter, who is the volunteer chapter leader for the Weston A chapter in the Ventura area. Welcome, Joanie.
Hi, George. It's really good to see you again.
So for those who don't know, could you just give us a brief statement about the Weston Price Foundation?
Sure. The foundation is a nutrition education organization. It is basically volunteer run. So as the Ventura area chapter leader, all my work is on a volunteer basis.
Okay, great. All right, so let's touch on adrenal exhaustion right away. And for those who don't know what it is, could you define it?
Sure. Adrenal exhaustion occurs when the adrenal glands are under functioning. And what we primarily, there's a whole range of hormones that there's a cascade effect, progesterone, DEHA, I could go on and on. But primarily on a day-to-day basis, we rely on the adrenal glands for cortisol production.
Okay, so what does that translate, though, into activity? So if you don't have enough cortisol, what does that mean?
Well, it means that on a daily basis, healthy adrenals mean that you sleep well all night long, you wake up in the morning, they've had enough recovery time that they have produced cortisol, and then we have this bank of this hormone and we draw on it all day long. So pretty much a healthy cortisol production pattern looks like that. So when the adrenals are under functioning, we wake up in the morning not feeling terribly rested because our cortisol is lower than it should be. So we're kind of foggy brained, and very characteristically, we tend to reach for a cup of caffeine to get going in the morning.
Okay, so would it be fair to associate cortisol with energy?
Yes, that is exactly what cortisol does for us on a daily basis. Yeah.
Okay, so if a person is feeling generally a tired sensation, is that automatically something that they might associate with adrenals, or that's too broad a statement?
No, I would say that is a very clear red flag for under-functioning adrenals. Also, believe it or not, having digestive issues, so gas, bloating, reflux, even occasionally is a red flag for low-functioning adrenals, as is having any kind of difficulty sleeping, falling asleep, and or waking up in the middle of the night, and or waking up feeling not rested.
Okay. Now, is adrenal exhaustion something that a lot of people are familiar with in terms of just the general society?
You know, it's a somewhat controversial issue, although it is becoming less and less so as more practitioners are educated. And those who are experts in it do say that it is epidemic. I was diagnosed with it a number of years ago, and I have worked on the vitamin aisle at 2 different health food stores for the past 6 years, and I'd have to say, in my personal experience, I believe that it absolutely is epidemic. There are very few people that I meet that I don't see some of the red flags for this condition, and it is fairly undiagnosed.
Okay, cool. Is there some simple remedies for it or not?
It is not a simple.
Okay.
It's like dietary, nutritional. There is no pharmaceutical fix for it. So for the most part, medical doctors are not real educated about this condition. You're probably going to have to find somebody who's got alternative training.
Okay, cool. So now let's jump into this association with vegetarianism. So could you comment on that?
So yeah, I'm going to speak to this from personal experience because I was a lacto-vegetarian for 29 years, meaning to say I ate a plant-based diet with the addition of dairy. And what I came to learn, and it was really upon what I'd have to characterize as a health collapse in my mid to late 40s, was that my vegetarian diet really did not, it really negatively impacted my adrenal exhaustion. And I've had to work very, very hard to repair the adrenal damage that was accelerated by my vegetarian diet since then.
Okay, so not being an expert on diet or vegetarianism, but it seems to me that the lack of meat was the cause of the lack of cortisone production?
Well, it's more complicated than that. Anything that is a stressor is going to tend to wear the adrenals down so that at some point they kind of go around that bend and start to not produce enough cortisol. And eventually it moves from not producing enough to producing in this bizarre spiky pattern. So it can be anything, what most people think about is psychological stressors like being too busy at work, having a divorce, having to relocate, things like that, not getting enough sleep, and those are all accurate. But what most people are not aware of is the physiological stressors. For example, not getting enough easily absorbable protein. This is very easy to do with the vegetarian diet. Another stressor, believe it or not, is getting too much copper in the diet, which is also very easy to do. The reason for that, and this is a subject that even, what you'll find is that most conventional doctors are not aware of adrenal exhaustion. Then of those who do have some training in it, it's a much smaller subset who are aware that once the adrenals become compromised, one of the first things that start happening is the adrenals do not handle metals very well. One of the most common metals we have in our diet is copper. It's in almost all our food, particularly plant foods. And when you begin to get tired adrenals, they stop excreting the copper appropriately and begin instead storing it in the soft tissues in the body, in particular, for starters, the liver. And then as the liver gets saturated, it will move to the brain. And this saturation of the copper in the tissues is like a scratch on a CD, so that while you may have a practitioner who diagnoses you as having adrenal exhaustion, if that practitioner does not also understand the importance of protocols for helping the body to pull the copper out of the system and excrete it properly, you will improve only to a certain level and you don't get any better beyond that place.
Wow. Okay, so just as a quick aside here, why is there copper in plants?
Oh, there's metals in all foods, minerals. Okay.
So that's common.
Sure. Manganese, calcium, copper is just one more.
Okay.
There is a very critical seesaw relationship from the body's perspective between copper and zinc. So a third stressor is that if you don't eat enough foods that have enough zinc, if you're zinc deficient, once again, the body will get confused and instead of excreting the copper, will put it in the soft tissues. And one of the most common sources, in fact, pretty much the only for zinc, is animal food. So if you exclude animal food from the diet, it's another stressor.
Wow. Okay, cool. So coming back to the situation of vegetarian and how it impacted you in terms of adrenal exhaustion. So we have you as a good example. Is there any research that you know of that supports this on a broader basis?
Oh, sure. Well, my practitioner who diagnosed me has a great website, and her name is Teresa Vernon. She is a licensed acupuncturist, so her website is T as in Teresa, Vernon, LAC.com. We also have a local practitioner here in Ventura who is trained in this. His name is Mike Long. He is also an acupuncturist, so if you Google by his name, you'll find his website. Both of those websites have further information on it. I could go on and on. I would say if somebody has more questions, probably they could simply send me an email and I could send them on to where they need to go. And so that would be WAPF, so WAP is in Paul, F is in Frank, Ventura @gmail. And I'd be happy to tell them what they need to know.
Okay, so coming back to your situation, so you were a vegetarian for a long time. Now, did you stop becoming a vegetarian, or you just simply put more protein into your diet and fix these other areas?
Well, I was working with a practitioner because I was really getting sick. I had chronic fatigue. I had levels of allergies that were just increasing, seemed like on a weekly basis. I had an extreme sleep disorder. I was going through all kinds of extreme perimenopausal symptoms, and that's because The adrenals are intimately connected to those kinds of sexual hormones and their production. So I had worked with a naturopathic physician for over a year, and for a year she would very gently nudge me to say that she thought I needed to add meat back into the diet, and I didn't want to hear about it. And finally, as a single mother, really, that was the reason, because I had a daughter who deserved a mother that could do more than just go to bed as soon as she got home from work. And I finally said, I have got to try. And I began to experience immediate improvement.
Wow, okay. So it's not that you're advocating people shouldn't be vegetarians. You're just saying in your situation that...
I'm saying they should be aware of the red flags for adrenal exhaustion, because in not just my experience, but also based on what I learned post my experience trying to repair the damage that got done to my body, that it's really important to make sure that I would say the very first thing you need to pay attention to is fatigue, and whether or not you want to have a cup of coffee in the morning to clear up your brain to get to work.
Good. Okay, so we're running out of time here. Let's suppose someone who's watching this program is thinking, oh, maybe I am exhibiting some symptoms of adrenal exhaustion. What are some things that you could suggest that might help them to remedy that?
Well, you mean a vegetarian or just anybody?
Let's say anybody, but if you want to give specific advice to a vegetarian, that'd be great too.
Okay. Well, as I said, I really highly recommend both those practitioners that I mentioned earlier. And I would say that adrenal exhaustion is very complicated because it's going to require a very low allergen, very clean, paleo traditional foods diet as the base. You have got to have your food in good shape first, and then based on testing, so you're going to have to be working with a licensed practitioner, you need to get a protocol that's going to help you address the adrenal exhaustion, especially the copper toxicity.
Okay, great. All right, so in the final moment here, is there a summating message that you'd like to convey to the viewers?
Yeah, I just would like to say that it's being vegetarian is a complicated issue. Please do not take it lightly, because what you have to remember is that we have 2.5 million years of evolving on this planet, eating a hunter-gatherer diet, which according to anthropological evidence, we know is primarily an animal-based diet. In fact, as far as we can tell from the work that Dr. Weston did, who is the inspiration for the foundation that I'm involved with, the ideal diet is 2/3 animal food supplemented by 1/3 plant food. So please understand that you need to be careful and be working with a practitioner who knows what they're doing if you're going to make that transition.
Good, and then this final couple seconds here, what is the website for the Weston Price Foundation?
It's just like its name, so it's westonaprice.org, and go to the archives, and there is an entire section there dedicated to vegetarianism.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joanie.
You're welcome, George. It's always a pleasure.
This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.